Hi, welcome to the Deanery Project. My name is Kim Thompson and I'm the Executive Director and a founding member of the Deanery Project. We're an environmental arts and education space on the eastern shore of Nova Scotia, and our work is mostly based on land-based work. We invite people to come out and learn about nature, and through workshops and through a variety of arts experiences that they can have here on our beautiful oceanfront property. One of our key resource people in our team is Jim Turner. He's a local horticulturist, and Jim has offered to take the workshop that he usually delivers here on the land and put it online. So this year we're offering you a 6-part video series that you can learn everything you wanted to know about maple tree tapping with Jim.
Maple sap runs in the early spring. Typically in Nova Scotia it's in March. Maybe around the equinox is a good time, but a lot of years like this year is coming earlier because we have the weather conditions that are right for maple sap to be running in the trees. We're going to talk a lot about that later. But first of all, we just want to sort of understand why we want to do this. Why do we want to go out and tap maple trees? And then we want to do some. So there was a famous writer, naturalist named John Burroughs in the 19th century, and he wrote a quote that summarizes maple, what we're doing here. And he said, "A sap run is the sweet goodbye of winter. It is the fruit of the equal marriage of the sun and the frost." And so even though he didn't really understand plant physiology, he nailed it, because that's exactly what is happening at this time of the year. We have frost at night, and we have sun and warmth during the day. And that's the critical combination to get the sap running in maple trees. Tapping maple trees in the spring, one of the most important things is it gets you out in the woods this time of the year, and you have to go out like every day or two and check your trees, and it's a great opportunity to experience nature because you're out in the woods. Then of course there's the benefits of tapping the trees, because maple syrup, not only is it delicious, it also contains a lot of nutrients and minerals that give you kind of a spring boost. And so although we will be talking about making maple syrup, many people collect maple sap and use it as a spring tonic. They just drink it for the freshness and to wake up their body for the coming season. Maple sap is really high in calcium, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, iron, look at my list here, riboflavin, folic acid, and other vitamins. So it is nutritious as well as being sweet and delicious. So in Nova Scotia, we live in a forest group called the Acadian Forest, which has a broad biodiversity of species because of its location between the northern boreal forest and the more southern Carolinian forest. So we have a high diversity of trees. And some of those trees are maples. There are 4 maples that commonly grow in the Acadian Forest. And so we're going to talk about those 4 maple trees, because all maple trees do this phenomenon which allows for the collection of sap that you can boil down and make syrup from. But we'll start out by talking about sugar maple, because sugar maple has the highest concentration of sugar in its sap. A sugar maple sap will have 2.5% sugar. So that means that it takes about 40 gallons of sap to make a gallon of syrup. But that's a higher percentage of sugar than other maples. So sugar maple has a higher percentage of sugar, so you don't have to boil off as much water. But in the end, the syrup comes out the same quality. So if you don't have sugar maples, but you have red maple, You can make syrup out of red maple or even Norway maple or just about any kind of maple. It's just the sugar concentration won't be as high, so you're going to have to do more work to get it down to the syrup. Another reason why sugar maple is a preferable maple if you're going to try to produce a lot of syrup is because the sugar maple run lasts longer than the run for some other types of maple trees. So in a typical year, the sugar maple run might last for 6 weeks. When we begin getting into the temperature fluctuations that are good, up until just before the tree blooms, and you can really no longer use the sap from the tree. So the sugar maple run is about 6 weeks, whereas the red maple run is shorter, maybe 4 weeks in a normal year. So you're going to end up accumulating more sap over the longer period of time. On a good day, from a single tap on a single tree, you might get 1 gallon of sap. So over the period of weeks, there will be some good days and some days when the weather didn't cooperate. So typically you'll get 10 gallons of sap to 20 gallons of sap from a single tap on the tree, on a sugar maple. And it'll be a little bit less on a red maple or a Norway maple. The sugar maple, as I said, has the highest concentration of sugar, and they are native to this area, although not particularly common, but you may find them. And if you go to the northern part of Nova Scotia, then there are lots of sugar maple. The sugar maple leaf is different in that you can see the shape looks like the Canadian flag, and the notches in the leaves are rounded in the base, like the letter U. So it's easy to remember that that's a sugar maple because the notches are shaped like the letter U. If you take a leaf of a sugar maple with the stem attached and you break the stem in the summer, the sap will be clear rather than cloudy. And so that's another indicator that it's a sugar maple as compared to a Norway maple, which is an introduced species which is pretty common around cities. Both of them can make sugar, but you get a higher sugar concentration from sugar maple. The most common maple in our area is the red maple. Red maple their leaves are shaped kind of like a cup in the summer, and they are often multi-trunked in the area. They can also tolerate our environment better than sugar maple. They like wetter conditions, even swampy ground. They're quite durable on. They grow much quicker in our climate, and those are very common. If it's the winter and you want to determine if you have a red maple or some other kind of maple, you need to look at the buds of the red maple, and you'll see that they're rounded as opposed to the sugar maple, where the buds are very pointed. So that's one way to tell. Also, you might see that the red maple has a redder tinge to the young wood than other maples. When we're out tapping maples, we'll look up into the trees and you'll be able to see numerous flower buds on the red maple. And that's possibly the easiest way to find red maple in your own woods, because you can walk around and you can look up and you can see them by the pattern of the flower buds on the stems. It's easier to tell that way than by looking at the bark. Or in the winter, there's not leaves to identify your trees. So by looking up, you can see the red maples pretty easily once you sort of get used to what they look like. There are some other maples which are much less common. One is the striped maple or moosewood maple, which grows into a large shrub, but their leaves are very round, very distinctive, even more rounded than the red maple. But they're a beautiful tree. The bark has green stripes. So if you see that in the woods, that's another maple to look out for. And another one is a silver maple, which has beautiful leaves which shimmer in the wind because they're white on the back side. All of these maples, as I said, you can make syrup from. It just takes a little more boiling.